Story 1. My, now, ex-wife revealed she is pregnant with a man she cheated with and no longer wants to see our child. This past weekend the kiddo and I went on a 2-day camping trip for some father-son bonding time. My wife doesn't like camping herself at all anymore and doesn't even appreciate our kid and I going. This is a big hobby for me and I want to share with my son. Usually we argue a lot about my trips, especially if I request to bring our child, but this time she was oddly cooperative about the whole thing, but still insisted she wouldn't join us. I was surprised but didn't question anything because I was so excited that she was finally allowing us to go and I didn't want her to change her mind. I thought we had finally found a common ground and the arguments were ending. I was wrong. We had a great trip and returned back on Monday. We expected to come home to an empty house as my wife should have been at her office for a few more hours. I walked the kid up to his room as he was exhausted and ready for a nap. After, I walked into our bedroom to find a naked man in my bed. I recognized him as my wife's co-worker whom I have met numerous times at her work functions. At first I was in disbelief and even wondered if I was in the right house. Then my wife walked out of our bathroom, also naked, and I had no more doubts. She looked petrified when she saw me. I have never been so angry. I yelled at the dude to get out of my house so I could speak to my wife. He grabbed his clothes and left. Then we started arguing. I never yell at my wife, we always want to keep things civil for our son, but I was so hurt I was screaming. Then my wife decides to get defensive, saying it's not her fault that I am barely around in camp so much, even though I hardly go on trips anymore because she doesn't like it. She says, "That's what drove me to do this, your neglect to this family." I was in tears at that point. I just don't understand how her cheating could be my fault. When I turned around to leave, my son was standing in the doorway and I felt terrible for yelling. I quickly consoled him, but my wife snapped at me again, telling me to get my hands off him. Now she won't speak to me and says I can't see my child until I apologize. Apologize for what? She said we could go on this trip. She planned to cheat and that kills me. It makes me wonder if she has done this before. I'm stuck staying with my parents right now. I don't know what to do, I want to see my son. I'm worried I really scared my child and of course I would apologize to him, just not my wife, but maybe it is my fault. TLDR, my wife cheated on me while my son and I were on a camping trip. She says it's my fault for camping too much. Update, I'm back home now, decided it was best to get here ASAP. Things are quiet but I'm relieved to be back in the same space as my son. Thank you all for the advice and kind words, it means so much. I'll keep you all updated if you'd like. Edit, thank you all again for the support, I appreciate it. Smiley face, sorry I can't reply to everyone, there's a lot of you and things are tough right now. But thank you so much. Edit, in case of any confusion, I am Canadian. Update 1. For the past week, I have been working with a lawyer to initiate the process of divorce and gaining full custody of my son, with the exception of visitation for now until more is resolved. Things were awkward and tense for the first few days of me being back home, so my wife, using wife to keep things simple and identities private, decided to leave to stay with the guy I found naked with her. I'm disappointed at the example she's setting for our son, but this makes my decision to divorce even more concrete. I will continue to share as much as I can if that's what people would like, but of course court has its confidentialities that I must keep within boundaries of. I want to thank everyone for the continued support you all have shown me throughout this tough time in my life, I really do appreciate it. Edit, I just want to note, please don't just blame women/use this situation to be misogynistic. Update 2. This is another, and most likely final, update about my ex. See my past posts for more information if you'd like. I expected my last update to be the final post regarding my marriage, but this felt like a necessary thing to share. Last week I received several texts from my ex saying she was pregnant with an unknown man's child. Obviously meaning she cheated with multiple other people before the one I found out about. She said she plans to keep the baby and start a family with her co-worker. Other posts have context. She also mentioned that she wouldn't be fighting me for custody of our son. I told her I would be willing to split the custody or at least keep visitation rights for the sake of the kiddo, but she insisted she didn't care about that anymore. I am honestly in awe. I'm shocked she has given up on everything about the family we had, but I am most hurt for my son. At the end of the day she isn't worth wasting any more of my energy on. I have been spending every moment I can with my kid and will continue to do so. I'm starting to feel more like myself again and I can't wait to get back into adventures and nature, smiley face. I'd like to say a final thanks to everyone for the support and encouragement. I will always be grateful for that. Tobias out victory hand, for now. Story 2. My 38F wife of 16 years cheated on me 44M with her boss. About a month ago, my wife cheated on me with her ex-boss. He'd left the company the week before. We were both supposed to go to a party downtown that night and spend the night at a nearby hotel. Our babysitter became unavailable and I needed to stay home with our kiddo, 5 years old. She decided that she would go alone and stay the night without me. Before she left for work that morning, I told her how uncomfortable I was with that. Normally, I wouldn't have cared, but my spider sense was tingling because of weirdness over the previous few days. She told me there was nothing to worry about and that was that. I woke up with a start at 2:15 a.m. and a knot in the pit of my stomach. She'd recently turned off her phone location service, should have been a huge red flag, but I didn't actually think that much of it, but I checked it anyway. She'd turned it back on and I could see she was at an apartment complex nowhere near the party location. She was there until 9 a.m. I confronted her when she got home and after some half-hearted lies she stopped denying it. It was the first time, might have been some groping and or oral earlier in the week, I'll never know, though it wasn't a drunken moment of weakness. She'd been thinking about it and planning for it for a couple of weeks. She knew what she was doing and obviously didn't care what it did to the family. Our marriage has had its ups and downs and I've not always been the greatest husband. I've never been unfaithful though and I love her dearly. Whatever issues we had I think we could have worked through. From what I can piece together, I think she was looking for a quick escape from a husband and child that she felt were stifling her. It was a chance to have a different, more exciting, life. Turns out that her ex-boss was really just looking for a little something on the side. He put her into a cab still in her evening gown and made her make the 9 a.m. walk of shame back at her hotel by herself. Oops. After she finally admitted the infidelity to me, she told me that it had been a mistake and she wanted to stay with me. There's a chance that her ex-boss would try to hire her at the new company he works for. She's really damn good at her job and I suspect his motivations would be more that she would help make him look good rather than sexual. She's really not his type. I told her that there was no way that could happen. She couldn't be with me and work for the man she'd broken her vows with. I told her that she needed to call her ex-boss and tell him that they could never speak again and I needed to hear her say the words to him. She resisted this fairly strongly. The new job, if it were to materialize, would be an important career boost for her. Turning it down would be a big sacrifice, so I understood some of the hesitation. She asked me for a day or two to think it through. She went over to her mother's house for a couple of hours and when she came back told me that she'd decided to make the call and give up the career opportunity. What she didn't know was that because I get the phone bills, I have access to her call records. I could see that she'd talked to her boss for an hour while she was going to her mother's. I didn't mention that I knew this and had her call her boss. She told him that it had been a huge mistake and that they needed to cut off all communications. He said that he understood and would honor her wishes. Pretty much exactly what I wanted to hear. Later, I asked her if she talked to her boss any since he put her in a cab back to her hotel. She said that she hadn't. I pressed her on this and she said, if you want the truth, I sent him a text just seeing how he was recovering from the party. I told her that I knew that this was a lie and I knew she'd talked to him before coming home from her mother's. I pressed her on what the hour-long call was about. She told me it was to talk about what she was going to call him about later with me, the breakup call. I realize of course that this made the whole breakup call a pile of nonsense. I told her that I thought she called him to see if there was any chance of a relationship. She denied but couldn't otherwise explain what the hell they talked about for so long. Finally she let it slip that he'd said you need to try to make it work with your husband. If not, then we'll see. So my instincts were right. She had to think about whether to turn down the possible career opportunity because she had to figure out what her options were. If she could have the job and the fellow she was infatuated with, that would be her preference. Failing that, she decided she'd rather lose the job and be with her family than be alone and maybe or maybe not get the job. For what it's worth, I eventually told her to accept the job if they offered it. I don't think he will though, once he had says with her, too much career risk from drama and fallout. That was all about a month ago. Since then, she's been the model wife. We're going to counseling, she's done everything that I've asked, she's put up with my various late-night talk-a-thons, She doesn't complain when I don't let her sleep in our bedroom, and she's not made it about her, much. She clearly wants things to work now, and I believe her when she says she wants to be with me. At the same time though, I'm still having difficulty just with the physical side of the infidelity, and I'm having a lot of trouble with being plan B. Part of it is my bruised ego, but a very large part is a concern that she wants our relationship now, but what happens in the future? I feel like she's accepted her life and is now gung-ho about making the best of it. What happens down the road though? So, the question in front of me now is what to do? For the last month, I've been bouncing all over between just digging in and fixing things to thinking about asking her to leave. For what it's worth, if she leaves, the kiddo almost certainly stays with me. My work gives me the time and ability to be a stay-at-home dad, which is a role I enjoy. My inclination as a father is that I probably have to stay and try to make it work. Kids do best with a mommy and daddy who love and respect each other. If there's still even a remote chance of that happening for the long term, I don't think I can deny my son that chance. I'm hoping but not convinced that time will dull some of the raw emotion. TLDR, wife cheated on me with her boss. Didn't work out how she expected and now wants our relationship to work.